After the fall of the Assad regime in Syria, neighboring nations have taken decisive actions to secure their borders. Jordan, Lebanon and Turkey, they've sealed their borders, limiting movement to essential crossings only. Jordan closed its Jabr border crossing, that is the only operational crossing with Syria. The Jordanian Interior Minister said that while Jordanian nationals and trucks will be permitted to return, all outgoing traffic to Syria will be prohibited. And this closure is especially important for Jordan, that has been majorly impacted by the large number of Syrian refugees since the civil war began. Lebanon has closed most of its land border crossings with Syria, allowing only limited access through the Masna crossing, which remains open primarily for Syrian nationals. Lebanese army has deployed extra units to the northern and eastern borders. This decision was made in response to repeated Israeli airstrikes in the region. Turkey, on the other hand, has sealed its borders to prevent potential infiltration by militants while actively supporting opposition forces in northern Syria. Additionally, both Israel and Turkey have increased their military readiness along their borders with Syria to deter potential threats. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he ordered the Israeli military to seize a UN-patrolled buffer zone between the Israeli and Syrian-controlled Golan Heights. Netanyahu claims now that a 1974 disengagement agreement with Syria has collapsed, so he directed the military on Saturday to seize the buffer zone and the commanding positions nearby, calling the fall of Bashar al-Assad a historic day in the history of Middle East, quote-unquote. Israeli Prime Minister stated that the fall of Bashar al-Assad was a direct result of Israel's military actions against Hezbollah and Iran.
זה יום היסטורי בתולדות המזרח התיכון. משטר אסד חוליה מרכזית בציר הרשע של איראן. המשטר הזה נפל. זוהי תוצאה ישירה של המכות שהנחתנו על איראן ועל חיזבאללה, התומכות העיקריות של משטר אסד. זה יצר תגובת שרשרת ברחבי המזרח התיכון.
Meanwhile, US President-elect Donald Trump has made it clear that he intends to distance the US from any involvement in Syria's protracted civil war. In a social media post, Trump said, "Syria is a disaster, but it is not our ally," stressing that the US should have no involvement in the conflict. On the other hand, US President Joe Biden has decided to meet with his national security advisors over Syria on Sunday. French President Emmanuel Macron expressed his support for the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime. In a social media post, he stated that the barbaric state has fallen at last. He also paid tribute to the Syrian people for their courage and patience during the long conflict. The UAE is a key player in the region and has expressed concern over the situation. UAE has put out that they are extremely worried about extremism and chaos in Syria.
Now, there was a major failure, basically, in politics and policy, because Assad did not really use the sort of lifeline that was thrown to him by various Arab countries, including the UAE, and did not really use that to open up, to move on the constitutional discussions that were taking place, and at the same time also overtures to try and open up with Turkey.
According to sources, India has reacted to the rising violence in Syria by stating that the Indian embassy in Damascus will remain operational and that all Indian nationals are safe. The Indian government has assured that the embassy is available to assist Indian citizens in Syria during this tumultuous period. Pakistan, which is closely monitoring the situation as well, has increased the security at the Pakistan embassy in Syria. The Pakistani government stated that the embassy is open for support and advice for Pakistani nationals living there. All right, Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik is joining me over the phone line, joining me from Islamabad. Anas, the way it has all unfolded in Syria, all it took was 11 days to topple a regime which has been in place for decades. Bashar al-Assad, his whereabouts remain unknown. Whether he's dead or alive, that remains unknown. It's shrouded in mystery. No one knows where he is or even if he's alive. At this point, we've seen a lot of jubilant reactions coming from a lot of the Western nations. What is the general consensus that you've picked up from reactions around you and internationally about what the current situation in Syria will mean for the larger West Asian region, which has already been on the boil since last year?
Well, Shivan, it won't be wrong to say that it's deja vu 2021 August. I mean, I was there
similar.
In Afghanistan. Yes. WION was the only network in Afghanistan in August 2021 when Taliban took over in similar circumstances on a Sunday on the 15th of August 2021, and 3 years later, almost 3 years and a quarter later, again on a Sunday is when these rebel forces or opposition groups, so-called, have now taken over charge. Now, Pakistan and where we are, it's being seen with a pinch of salt, primarily because let's not forget that the HTS and its leader both are currently under UN sanctions. They're listed. Therefore, there is a lot of cautiousness that is being currently exercised, and that is the reason we're seeing some fallout of it happening. We understand, and as it has been reported, that the Syrian embassy in Greece was overrun by rebel forces supporters, and the flag was replaced. Now, as a preemptive measure, the Pakistani side has also improved security. In fact, they've beefed up security measures of the ambassador and Syrian diplomats in the country. Not just that, of the premises as well in Pakistan, in Islamabad, that is in sector F6. That additionally, what we also know is that all Pakistanis are safe. This is what the Pakistani Ministry of Foreign Affairs has maintained. They say that the Damascus airport is currently closed. There are about roughly about 2,500 or odd Pakistanis that are currently in Syria as we speak. About 700 plus of them are married. The others are there either to work or are as Zairins for pilgrimage. Remember, there's a big Shiite mosque that's there in Syria itself. The reason there's a big concentration of Pakistanis that goes to Syria, and currently, while the Pakistani embassy remains functional, owing to the closure of the Damascus airport, therefore the evacuation cannot be made possible. As soon as it opens, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says that evacuation efforts will be made. With that being said, what we also know is that a crisis management unit, CMU, has been set up here in Islamabad to facilitate the family members of those who are stranded currently in Syria. Shivan?
Anas, also the number of displaced people, there is a lot of joy. People are hoping that they may get to come back. You've given us a basic understanding of all that's happening in Pakistan at this point, but there is one question, and I'm trying to get as many reactions as we can at this point, because yes, and we take this with a lot of caution, because it is speculating at this point about the whereabouts of Assad. There was a certain we had a guest earlier who joined me over here, and he suggested that UAE could also perhaps be one of the locations that he may have gone to apart from Tehran. He ruled out Saudi Arabia and definitely ruled out of Assad's whereabouts if he would be heading to Moscow. He ruled out those places. Anything that you've picked up on possible places where Assad could have gone if he's alive?
Well, what the guest said, that's what sources close to Assad had been saying, that there was a possibility. In fact, it was reported as well that there was possible ways of contact with the Emirati administration leadership by former President Bashar al-Assad of Syria. So it would not be a surprise in case if President Bashar al-Assad or the former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad emerges from Abu Dhabi. But Tehran, of course, remains another option. How safe would that be? That is something, given the recent turn of events in Tehran itself, especially with the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in July this year, that the safety aspect is something that has to be kept in consideration. So I would personally not be surprised, given that there is a track record. As I said, and just when we started this conversation, I gave you an account of how we witnessed, we reported Kabul falling on the 15th of August 2021. I was there three and a half weeks earlier, and in similar circumstances is when Kabul fell. 10 days it took for the Taliban to come into Kabul. 11 days it took for the HTS to come into Damascus. So it is to be seen with a lot of cautiousness, and Abu Dhabi could perhaps be the choice of destination for Bashar al-Assad, given the safety and security factor, keeping the safety and security factor in mind.
Eerie similarities between what we saw back in 2021 and what we've now seen in 2024 regarding Kabul and now with Damascus. You, of course, Anas, have seen it closely back in 2021 as well, so you'll know the similarities more than anyone else, as you've reported from ground in Afghanistan as well. Thank you so much. That was Anas Malik, our Pakistan Bureau Chief, joining me from Islamabad.